We have planted the seeds and watered the Spring Football Talk Show garden with yet another edition of Spring Football Has Sprung. Eugene Oba with you. Glad to see you. Glad to be here. This, the final week of the regular season. My, how time flies. And man, this show has really been rolling. And so too has Hakeem Butler. Look at this. Most receiving yards in UFL history, 1,520 yards. Stallions Aviators, second most watched UFL game. A little over 1 million viewers this year. This is fantastic. A peak of nearly 1.7 million. How about that? How about that? Close to that 2.2 million average that I've told you guys about for preseason NFL games. And we hopefully are going to make some history on this show because I'm going to talk about why the Louisville Kings have been such a hit. I mean, wow, Louisville, what a game last week. Really exciting stuff. What a great look for that market. That has been a home run. I'm going to explain some of the factors in that regard. I'm also going to explain why I believe the Continental Football League, based on the little bit I've seen this past weekend while it was raining out here in the DMV, why I think the rain is going to fall on the Continental Football League's parade. And of course, we will have the last pick'em segment of the regular season at least. But as we kick things off, I was looking at an article in Sports Business Journal, and actually the Louisville Business Journal, about what has been happening over at the Kings and how good it has really been. Now, of course, Dr. Mark Lynn, he had remarked that he loves not just football, but also football, gridiron over at Lynn Family Stadium. And it has been truly such a great venue. In fact, really, when the open of the season started to happen, that had me at hello. The sunset, I mean, this stuff, the setup is lovely. In fact, so much so that we are going to be doing a show next year. I have every intent of going down to Louisville. We're going to do a show out there. So you guys let me know. Some of you have already mentioned that the Spring Football Has Sprung Twitter, but let me know some of the best tailgates. Let me know some of the best places. And we are going to go and check this stuff out. This is exactly when you look at the game last week and really just in general in that market, that is the kind of stuff that Mike Rapoli, this was the vision. You have support in that market. None of their games dipped below 10K in attendance. And this is even with the kind of sorts of not so good performance in the early starts of it, even the controversy surrounding um the overtime. There was some thinking in that week that, oh, this is going to really derail some of the progress there because, of course, buy-in, you need to have a lot of good things aligned in order to have buy-in in a new market. Boy, how wrong we were on that one. I mean, the Louisville has clearly bought in. I mean, even the field has held up quite nicely. We know that soccer fans are very precious about the pitch and the conditions, that sort of thing. But Louisville, they've been able to really maintain this stuff very nicely. Um, I think that's really when you look at this market, and again, none of their games have dipped below 10K in attendance, even with the initial performance. And you have more people out there that are coming to this. You'll be lucky to get Birmingham to show up, even during a yard sale for Nick Saban. That's one of those. It's just one of those things. Um, Pat Ruffino, and shout out to him for pointing this out. There was um in looking at this and looking at the numbers there have been more attendance for the Kings. The Kings have had 56,000 people attend in 1 year. The Memphis Showboats could not get that in 2 years. What does that tell you? And what that goes to show is that, well, all this talk about relocation, you can't relocate teams, whatever, whatever, whatever. That's really a bunch of baloney. Nobody is crying that the Memphis Showboats are gone. So again, you love to see it. And in the last game on this past Sunday, it was just a loud af. It came through the television set. Boy, it sounded like the AFC Championship game over there. It really, really does. And again, you love to see it. And thinking about it this way, I've always said this: intangibles and optics matter. They really do. And the lead-in to the Renegades Kings game, the lead-in was the Indy 500. So when you have that, you have a full stadium and you have such an entertaining game, then guess what? In terms of the league and in terms of bringing casual fans into the fold, you could not have had a better setup, a better game for this in terms of really trying to bring more casual fans into the fold for this league. You really love it. You really, really do. And I'll tell you this: week 9, just in general, has done more to really bring those casual fans into the fold, I think as a whole, than I think any other week that has been done up to this point since week 1. I think that week 9 was really, really a banner stuff for this league. This was Chris Redman in the presser talking about what the opportunity means to him in Louisville.
It's really special. I appreciate the question. It's really special for me to represent my city. This is, a lot of coaches, they're coaching for a team that that they maybe not live in, but this is my hometown. I grew up here. I played football here, and then now I have an opportunity to lead a ball club here and potentially bring a championship to my city. So that's special to me, and like that, it means so much to see how many people come to support us, and all the people that work so hard to make this happen. It doesn't just happen, and we're starting a franchise, and these guys have just been amazing, and I think they like Louisville, and I think and Louisville really loves them. So it's been a great relationship, and I'm just very proud to be from here, and just want to represent my city the best I can.
Incredible passion over there, truly. And the model over there definitely is working. It does make you wonder, by the way, whether or not perhaps Mike Repole will revisit maybe any conversation with Energizer Park to use their stadium for the Battlehawks games. Now, look, I know a lot of you will say, Eugene, they don't want Gridiron on their field, Energizer Park. That's not a real option. But listen, Mike Repole, he's got enough FU money to change people's minds. Money talks, folks. So I will not be so quick to dismiss that quite yet. But definitely, I will say I want Louisville. I definitely like to see Louisville take that last playoff spot. I think it will be very, very exciting. They've got the easier path to do so. Remember that Birmingham, by contrast, they've got to beat Houston in this. DC's got to beat Orlando, and then Columbus has got to beat Louisville. It's a trifecta here, and I'm not sure that that is really going to happen for them. But a stroke of genius by Repole to eliminate the divisions, because that's what is going to make this week's games very, very exciting. But what's not a stroke of genius and what's not very, very exciting, I'm afraid, when we look at some of this stuff, has been the rollout of the Continental Football League and looking at some of the streaming of this week's games. I was watching bits and pieces of them while it's been raining here in the DMV. And United Football Media, they've got the deal with the Continental Football League to stream the games. I mean, good for them. Very, very good stuff in that regard. But what I saw, oh boy, was not particularly great. I mean, I'll be fair. I think that the Toros game was a little better in terms of some of the presentation in that regard. But otherwise, I think in totality, I don't think that the Continental Football League is going to be long for this planet. What also does not help is the fact that just a few days prior to the start of the Continental Football League, another team folds. Another team folds. The Indianapolis Capitals, they fold. And this from the press release, quote, the league's objective is to return the Indianapolis Capitals to active competition in 2027 at Dropland Grand Park, subject to the successful completion of ownership and operational milestones. So a little bit of couched language there in that press release. Now, look, the UFL, Lord knows that ain't perfect, but I want to see proper execution of these things. And having two teams fold before you get started is not really great. I mean, a lot of you complained about the UFL shop not being so great. A lot of you have complained to Rapoli about that, but that's small potatoes compared to this. It really, really is. Um, I don't think, and look, to be fair to the Continental Football League, they are not trying to be at national scale. They're not trying to position themselves to being at national scale like the UFL is. So maybe if you couch, maybe if I couch my criticism in that context, then maybe the stuff is okay. But really, I'll tell you, in looking at that very first stream, I was like, the announcers were ill prepared. I thought it was absolutely terrible. I think that's definitely they were worse than Mitch Trubisky's playing career. It really, really was. And I looked at the one shot of the empty field that they were lingering on for so long. I'm like, I don't know about this one. At the very least, I will say, again, just to be a little bit charitable here, I will say that at the very least, looking at the viewership of those streams, at least there were more people watching those streams. If the league can take a little bit of comfort from this, there were more people that were watching the streams than than those that were in attendance in USFL games. Most of the USFL games when that was a thing. So at least the Continental League can take a little bit of solace in that. The Toros, a little more polished there, that sort of thing. But if you look at the attendance of that, look at that. I mean, yikes, that was not so great there. And the reason I point that out, the one reason I point that out is that there is this guy over at the San Antonio Business Journal by the name of W. Scott Bailey, who was kind of sort of going on and on that the UFL is going to rue the day that they eliminated the Brahmas from the teams in the UFL. And look, if the Toros, if the Continental Football League is going to achieve what it wants to achieve uh, in terms of what Scott Bailey wants, then it is not going to be with that kind of lineup there. It's not going to. I don't think it's going to work. I don't. He seems to think that the Toros, Scott Bailey, he seems to think that the Toros are the greatest thing since sliced bread. The advent of spam, whatever it is. But I just do not see it. They are not going to get anywhere near the attendance of the Brahmas. And the Brahmas, look, for the record, I think that the Brahmas were great. I would have tried to make that work. I would have tried to make the Michigan Panthers work. I think both of those teams were more deserving of being retained in this league than, say, Birmingham. But again, the Continental League is not going to be the kind of sort of miracle that Bailey seems to want to have. And the word of advice to Mr. Bailey, if he watches this program, maybe do some reporting over at the San Antonio Business Journal as to why the Alamodome was not particularly friendly to the league in terms of scheduling. And if you are to do that kind of reporting over there at the San Antonio Business Journal, then I will signal boost it on the show. I will. So, overall, Continental League, I'm not a fan of it. Honestly, look, I like seeing things that are properly executed, and losing two teams They got quick replacements, but losing two teams before you start is not the kind of stuff that I like to see in this. I really, really don't. I'm not going to criticize players for seeking opportunity. I will never criticize players for seeking opportunities to advance their football career. They will do what they have to do, and you'll seize whatever opportunity you get. But this is a disaster, and sorry, it's not something that I think really is going to keep the UFL or any other league, for that matter, awake at night. So now, with that, it's time to pick them. So it's the last Friday night game of the regular season for Fox, the last pick'em of the regular season. And what I love about this league are all of the hot mics and the stuff between Neuheisel and Reed in last week's game. Wow, wow, wow. That was the second storyline last week. I mean, who knows? Will the drama continue? Tune in to find out. But what's not going to be so dramatic are that the Battlehawks are going to win this game. I mean, this is too much of a climb for the Renegades. I think that's definitely. We thought that the Renegades were going to be one of the teams that are going to be part of the playoffs, but that's not going to be the case. I've learned a little bit too much from the Dallas Cowboys in this regard. So, in terms of declining when it truly matters. So, there's that. Gamblers, Stallions, the Saturday game, 3 o'clock, ESPN2. Houston, they have been very interesting to watch. They've kept it very competitive last week against the Battlehawks. I was going to give Houston the upset here because if you look at DTR's performance, 46% completion percentage, 1 touchdown, 2 picks, 45 passer rating, not particularly great, but I don't think that DTR wants to end the season on such a low note, which is why I am going to pick Birmingham to win this stuff. Although too much of a climb in terms of getting into the playoffs, I don't think that this is going to happen for Birmingham over here, and maybe not going to be in the league too much longer if the tea leaves are being read. Now, Storm Defenders, 12 o'clock Sunday game. I'm going to be there for that. The Storm, they won last week. Storm are the best team in this league. I expect that to continue. The quarterback situation has been in flux for DC. EJ Perry just signed. So let's see what happens with that. I'm going to spend some time with the Showboats and the Panthers. Anthony Hines III claimed from waivers from Houston. So we may see a few interesting stuff, even if Jordan Ta'amu was healthy. I was telling a friend of mine this, even if Jordan Ta'amu was healthy, he would be rested. So I think that this is a closer game than what I think, in terms of the matchup. I think this will be a little bit of a closer matchup than what was expected. But I think that the Storm ultimately are going to win this stuff here. And then finally, Kings Aviators, Sunday, 6 o'clock. Stallions fans, you guys are going to be paying attention to this game. I mean, Chandler Rogers, I mean, what a day for him, for the Kings. 76% completion percentage, 190, nearly 150 passer rating. The Kings are peaking, have been peaking at the correct time in this. Kings, they're going to win this stuff and punch their spot into the playoffs. What an incredible team to watch. So much fun watching them. And speaking of fun to watch, I'm sure some of you have seen the 4th and Goal episodes on Wednesday. Definitely take some time to check that out on the ESPN app or whatever else in case you missed it. We did have a short that we put up earlier this week where I offered my take on the 2 episodes there. So do definitely check that out. Check that out on this channel. And really, I think in broad strokes, this is great for the league. This is a really, really, really good look, kind of this hard knocks sort of thing. Real good look for the league. And I am now that we are in the last week of the regular season, I can tell you honestly, even with some of the issues that we've talked about on this show in terms of attendance and whatnot, I can say honestly that this league, the UFL, is closer now than it's ever been to really, really, truly sticking. And with the completion of this regular season after this Sunday, this will be, again, the first non NFL league since the 80s USFL to actually complete a third season. Of course, once the United Bowl comes in, we can really close the books on that. And again, I don't think it's been stressed enough how remarkable that milestone is. And all signs indicate that there will be a fourth season next year. So, congrats to the league for achieving completion on Sunday in advance of the regular season. And I hope that really things will continue to go relatively well. There's still a lot of work to do. Let's not get it twisted. But I think in totality, I feel now that I'm more convinced now than ever that this league is finally going to stick. And I hope that you all will stick around with us because next week we will have another new episode of Spring Football Has Sprung, all leading to the United Bowl the following week. I'm going to be there for that. So definitely looking forward to this stuff, playoffs and all. It is going to be a lot of fun. So definitely keep it locked here. YouTube.com/the CSE channel. Like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. And until I see you next week, please, unlike the Louisville Kings, don't fumble in the end zone.